Right. So we're doing here in Moed Katan, and we're up to on Hey Amud Aleph. Hey Amud Aleph. And we're talking about the different laws of Chol HaMoed, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. So one of the things that we learned over there was that you can go ahead and have the graves marked. To put a marker, we'll talk a little bit about this markers on the grave. So you can go ahead and uh, and you can go ahead and put a marker uh, on the grave and on Chol HaMoed. That's important. What exactly means the putting the marker on the grave? That's what we're going to be discussing now in the Gemara. That's going to be the discussion now in the Gemara. So that's what this is the words of the Mishnah. Mitzayin es hakavoris, that you mark the graves. The purpose of marking the graves is, as Rashi will say, now we'll do the Rashi inside, is because when you pass over the grave, you become tamei. And people who eat truma, basically the Kohen who eats truma, cannot eat truma while they are tamei. So we want to protect the Kohanim from not going onto a grave. Matter of fact, today we are all considered to be tamei because we don't know where graves are. But whatever we can do, there should be a mark to tell us where a grave. And the Mishnah said that you can even do that on Chol HaMoed, on the intermediate day of the holiday. But let's do the Rashi over here. Mitzayin es hakavoris. Rashi says, what exactly is the mark that you make for the graves? She'oisim simonim. You make signs, marks, al hakavoris, on the graves, besid, with lime. The Omar b'Meruba, as the Gemara in Bava Kama Samachtes of Madalef in the chapter Meruba says, the Gemara talks about their various different kinds that are marked with different kinds of coloring. So the Mishnah says there that shel kavoros besid the chiver ki atzomes, that the graves you do with seed, with lime, which is white, like bones are white. So that's the reason we use this color. But nevertheless, we see that we mark it with a coloring so that you know that there is a grave there. In order, kidei shelo yelchu oichle trumo l'sham. So those that eat truma shall not go there, because it is actually punishable by Hashem punish you with a death penalty by Hashem, not by the court, if you become tamei and you eat kochim. But we want to protect people, should not be eating truma and becoming tamei by going over graves. That's why we mark them. Now, the Gemara asks, Omar Rab Shimon ben Pazi. Says Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, Remez litziyun kvoros min hatoira minayin. Where is there a hint that we mark the graves from the Torah? Where is there? The fact that we're allowing you to mark the graves on Chol HaMoed, to do that work, that means that is important, that it's a Torah thing. Where is that hint, that marking of graves from the Torah? Where do we know this from? Now, the Gemara is going to bring a whole list of different verses from where we can learn this. So the Gemara says, where do we know this? Talmud Loimar. That's why the Torah says, and this is actually a posik in Yecheskel Lametes. The Torah talks about in the future, as we'll see in the Rashi. He says there will be various different parts of body parts that you will find laying around. So the pasuk says in Yecheskel Amates, the pasuk says, "V'ro." Let's see if we have the full pasuk there. V'ro. Oh, no, I have the pasuk. V'ro etzem odom ubona etzle tzion, and he will see, or the person will see, an etzem odom, a bone of a person. Ubona etzle tzion. So he will build next to it a marker. A tzion is a marker. So we see the pasuk says that. Now, this is not the regular mace that we're talking about over here, but we see conceptually that there is in the Yecheskel, in the Navi, in the prophets, we find this idea of building a marker a sign around the bone of a human being. Let's do the Rashi. The pasuk says, we'll see. What is the context of this pasuk? Rashi translate. Yecheskel misnabe al ha'osid lavei. This was Yecheskel prophesizing about the future to come. What does he say? Sheyasu Yisrael tziyunim, that the Jewish people will make markers al atzomis hapagorim hamushlochim, on the bones of the carcasses that have been strewn all over the place. These are the carcasses, presumably in the Gaza. You see all the strewn, all the bodies. So it says in the future what they will do, they will make a marker to identify where it is. But Rashi cautions us. Here we just said before that the whole reason why we do the marker, because we don't want a Kohen who eats truma to step on the grave, or to step on the bone. But here we have a problem because a bone of a non-Jew does not metame, does not defile the person. So why would there be a need to build a marker when we're talking about goyim over here? We're not talking about the Yiddish carcass. We're talking about goyim. So why would there be a need to have to make a marker? So Rashi says, "V'remezhu." This is just a hint. Sheloi bo hakosuv. This pasuk isn't coming elo lahazir ulelamed sheyehei odom oisetzion. It's just coming to warn us and to teach us a person should make a marker. Yes, over there we're talking about another marker, but he's just bringing some hint in where we find the level. We find this concept of a marker mentioned in the prophets, but this isn't the regular marker that we're doing it, as Rashi said before, so that people that eat truma should not touch the carcass.
Question.
Sure.
So, does it make a difference when the person was buried? Like, so if someone was buried 6 months ago, and you say, it's Chol Moed, I have some time, I'm going to do it now, or is it just if it happened if you bury the person on Chol Moed, then you want to set up a marker immediately?
Well, if the question is that the person was negligent and he didn't do it, he had time to do it before, he just didn't do it, and then he wants to do it on Chol Moed, he may not be allowed to. But here we're not talking about a situation We're talking about it just came about now that he has either it's a fresh burial or it's something he just found out about, or but I have to look for more details. I have to look in the Shulchan Aruch. I mean, in the Mishnah, it's just very very vague that you could do that. That's an important aspect of it, and we'll see a little bit more later on. But generally we have in other places that you can only do things that you could not do beforehand, and something which you have to do. But if it's not, like even cooking, cooking on Yom Tov even we are allowed to. But it's also because the food is fresh or cooked fresh. That's why you're allowed to do so. A lot of things are allowed to be done just because it's better that you do it now. But if it's the same to do it before and then you leave it for Chol Hamoed, that's not allowed. That would not be allowed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, but here the Gemara asks him, so Ravina asks Rav Ashi an interesting question. He says to him, but wait a minute. So we had to wait to have a hint from the Torah. We had to wait all the way till Yecheskel, till Ezekiel, to come and tell us about a marker. What about till Yecheskel came? Do we have any source for a marker? I mean, we don't know. What did we do up till Yecheskel? There was no markers. In other words, he's asking him, how do you know a marker from the Torah? And he goes all the way to Yecheskel. That's where we have the hint. But what about having a hint before that? Since this is an important part, why didn't the Torah hint it somewhere else before? Or what? Or not that? What did they do till then? Did they not mark the grace? Did we have to wait until we come to Yecheskel? And the Gemara is going to say, now, that's not really what it means. What it means is they always had the law. We had the law. This was a tradition. But it was just that Yecheskel went and put it down, wrote it up, that when you see the bone, you'll build a marker next to it. But it's not like this is. And the Gemara answers like rhetorically with another question. In other words, you think that you have to have a hint earlier. You can't wait till Ezekiel, till Yecheskel comes around, because what did he do till then? So for Amale Ravina Ravashi, so Ravina says to Ravashi, Homekame delisi Yecheskel. What happens before Yecheskel came? Man Omar, who told us? Who told us about a marker? Nobody told us. But since the Torah was given until Yecheskel was a long time, who told us about it before Yecheskel? And the Gemara, Rav Ashi answers back Ravina. He says, like they say, a Jew answers a question with another question. They once asked a Jew, how come a Jew always answers a question with another question? So he said, why not? I mean, the Ravina argued that you can't say that the source is from Yecheskel, because what did they do up to Yecheskel? So Rav Ashi says back to him, Uletaimoch, and according to your reasoning, in other words, you think it has to be earlier. Ha the Omar Rav Chizda. We find another case. Rav Chizda said, he told us about a certain halacha. Dover ze mitoras Moshe Rabbeinu loy lamadnu. This item that I'm going to tell you, we didn't learn this from the Torah's Moshe. Mitoras Moshe Rabbeinu loy lamadnu. We don't know this law from the teaching of the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu. But we learn it from where? Medivrei Yecheskel ben Buzi. The words of Yecheskel, the son of Buzi, lamadnu, we learn it. He talks about another halacha. He says the halacha that we find in Yecheskel is something that we did not know before Yechezkel came. We don't know this only after Yechezkel. What halacha? Now we know that a person who is not circumcised cannot serve in the Beis Hamikdash. Where do we learn it from? That's not a pasuk in the Torah. In the Torah, it doesn't say anywhere that if you are a uncircumcised. Now, why would somebody be uncircumcised? Sometimes it's legitimate. Sometimes maybe somebody they don't want to circumcise them, but sometimes it's legitimate. Let's say if the brothers died when they performed the circumcision, they made a bris and they died. So then if it happened several times, then the other brother is not supposed to endanger his life and circumcised. So he's not circumcised. So you have a Kohen who's not circumcised. Is he allowed to serve in the temple as a Kohen because he doesn't have a bris? And the Torah doesn't say anything. So it says here like this. We learned this from the words of Yechezkel ben Buzi. There's a pasuk in Yechezkel ben Buzi, in Yechezkel, Perek Mem Daled, over there the pasuk says, Kol ben Neichar. Any strange. Here strange means an estranged, somebody who has left the religion. And we call him an Aral Lev. He's a stuffed heart. Because he left the religion, he's called an Aral Lev. His heart is stuffed. And also, the other one, Va'aral Basar. And also one whose flesh is stuffed, which means he doesn't have a bris. Yechezkel says, Lo yovoy el mikidoshi lisharseni. He shall not come to my sanctuary to serve me. Such a kohen is not fit to serve in the Beis Hamikdash. Now, this halacha we don't know from the Torah. So, this is what Rav Ashi is saying to Ravina. According to your argument, how could we wait for a halacha to be told to Yechezkel? What did he do up till then? So my question to you would be, up till Yechezkel came, how do they know this halacha that a person who's not circumcised cannot serve in the Beis Hamikdash? Where would they know this halacha from? But so what's the answer? So this is what Rabashi said to Ravina. The answer is that yes, the halacha was there all the time. We knew by tradition. We knew halacha l'Moshe Sinai that a person who is not circumcised cannot serve it. That's not a new halacha that Yechezkel discovered. Yechezkel is the only one who wrote down this that we know from the halacha that an uncircumcised kohen cannot serve in the Beis Hamikdash. The same thing is over here. Yechezkel was not the one who came up at the first one to tell us that you have to have a marker on a grave. That is something which we have already all the time. It's been established. What Yechezkel did is written it down. Let's look inside in the Rashi. Kol ben neichar va'oral basar, any estranged person, and also if he is stuffed of flesh, doesn't have a bris. And Rashi says, Shemesu echav machmas mila. His brothers have died because of circumcision. And they didn't want to circumcise him. They were worried. He might die just like his brothers died. If it's a case that he goes against the Torah, he doesn't want to do a bris, then it would probably be obvious that he can't serve as a kohen. He would have a status of a mumor. He would have, that would be obvious. But here we're talking about a case of a legitimate kohen that doesn't circumcise, because they didn't circumcise him. They were worried that he might die like his brothers. So can he serve? So the pasuk says, "Lo yavoy el migdashi la sharseni." He should not come to my sanctuary to serve me, because sha'asurim ba'avodah also avodah. So Rabashi is saying back to Ravino, Mikami delisi Yecheskel man Omar. So before Yecheskel came and told us that an uncircumcised kohen cannot serve, who said it? Elo. So what do you have to say? Gemara Gemirilo. It was a tradition. Gemara Gemirilo. We have it by tradition, and Rashi says Gemiri miSinai. We know it from Sinai. We have it by tradition. Also Yecheskel va'asmecho akro. Yecheskel came and he took this halacha. Asmecho, he took this halacha l'Moshe miSinai, and he leaned it on a pasuk. He brought it into the pasuk. So he's the one that verbalized or wrote it down, what we knew already by the halacha. So it's not a question. It's not that they changed the halacha up to Yecheskel. What did they do? The halacha didn't change. A kohen wasn't permitted to do the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash before Yecheskel also. The only thing is, over there, it was just that by tradition, he wrote it down. So the Hochenami, so the same thing over here, Gomorrah Gemirlo. The same thing is as far as the making the sign, a marker on the grave. Gomorrah Gemirlo. We know it by tradition that we make a mark on a grave. Halacha l'Moshe miSinai. But also Yecheskel va'asmecha akro. Then Yecheskel came around and he leaned this on the pasuk, meaning he leaned that halacha l'Moshe miSinai on this written verse. In our case, he said that they'll make the tzion, they'll find the bone, to tell us they made the marker. Okay, so that is not a problem. That what did we do up to Yecheskel? That's not a big deal, because it was by tradition. He just came and he wrote it down. The Gemara further says, Gemara is going to bring down several other psukim. Rababo Omar Mehocha. He says from this pasuk, a pasuk in Vayikra, that pasuk is talking about a person who is a mitzoira. He has leprosy. He's also tummy. And the Gemara and the pasuk says over there, the tome yikra. This mitzoira should call, announce. Yikra means call out. Call out that you're tummy. So the way it's read, literally, the tummy, and the person who is tummy yikra, should announce that he's tummy. So, when you're talking about a mitzoira, somebody, a person, then he can verbalize and say, "Oh, I'm tummy. Don't touch me. Don't come close to me." But how do we stretch it also when it comes to a grave? The person in the grave isn't going to tell you that he's tummy. For that, we're saying the marker serves that the tummy announces his tummy by putting a marker there. It's an announcement that he yikra. This is Rashi. The tummy yikra. Tumo koir oloi. That is, the tumo calls him. Voimeres loy proish, and tells him, Stay away. What does it mean, the tumah? The tumah is the grave. That's where the body is. The tumah itself announces, because it has a marker, and it tells them, Proish, stay away, separate yourself. That's how it announces its tumah. Let's do the Rashi. Tumah koirole proish. The tumah announces, says separate. Kloimar oisim simonim al hatumah. That means to say that we make a simon on the tumah, which means in this case the grave, which is tameh, which has the body in it. So you make a marker, you make a sign on the tumah, so the other person should sense and feel and know, and then he will separate. That's like announcing, I am tameh. That marker is the announcement of the tumah. So even though the pasuk actually is written with regards to a mitzvah, but we're stretching it to also include the graves. So says Rabbi Uziel, the son of the great Uziel. See, two Rabbi Uziels over here. So one was a regular Rabbi Uziel, and the other one was called Rabbi Uziel Rabba, the great Rabbi Uziel. So Rabbi Uziel, the grandson of Rabbi Uziel Rabba, also said, Tuma koiro loi, the Tuma calls out to him, to the person walking by, Voimeres loi proish, and he tells him, separate yourself. That's the marker. The marker says, don't come close. The Gemara asks now that pasuk, actually we learned something else from this pasuk. The Gemara says we learned something else from the pasuk because we say that a person who has a problem, let's say somebody is sick or somebody is tameh, should tell other people about his problem. A person with a problem should tell other people about his problem. Because, yeah. Why? Because you want other people to pray for you as well. Like we make a mishaberach. We make a mishaberach for a person who is not well. So the fact that it says you announce and tell everybody that you're tameh, you're basically asking people, pray for me that I should become pure. That's what we use the pasuk. So let's look at the Gemara. Frag the Gemara v'hai, and this pasuk lahocha hu osi. This is coming for this to tell us about a marker, tameh yikra, about announcing and telling people to stay away. Hahu miboyle likitanya, but that we need for what we learned in the Braisa, and we need it for something else. The Tanya, because what did we learn in the Braisa? It says in the pasuk, "V'tomei yikra." Why should he announce that he's tamei? That tzorich lo'idiyai tzayre l'rabim. One needs to let many know about his pain. If you're in pain, you have tzaras, you have leprosy, you have a problem, let other people know. And then the many will seek and beg compassion from Hashem for you. You want other people to pray for you. So when we say call Tomei, the announcement is so that other people will be able to pray for you. So the Gemara's question basically is, we need this pasuk for something else. But the Gemara says no. There's two times Tomei. The pasuk could have just says v'Tomei yikra. Why did it say Tomei yikra? So we learn both. In Cain, in that case, the Gemara says, if it's only coming to tell us about announcing your pain, that you're Tomei, Lichtov, the Torah should say v'tomei yikra. V'tomei yikra. One time, you should announce that you're tomei, not tomei yikra. My v'tomei yikra. Shamat minei tarti. So we learn both of this. We learn both. We learn, number one, you should announce it, and also to put by the kaver to put the sign. Okay, Abaye gives another pasuk. Abaye Omar Me'ocha and pasuk in Vayikra Perik Yutes. The pasuk says there v'lifnei iver lo sitein michshel. In front of a blind person, don't place a stumbling block. Literally, it means somebody who's blind, don't put a block in front of him so that he'll trip. But the same thing is true in a general way, not to cause anybody to trip. If you're not going to put a marker on, then the people that are carrying truma and taris or eating truma and taris, they're going to go. They're not going to know that there is a tumah there, and you're going to cause them to become tamei, and so you're stumbling them. You're putting a stumbling in their way. So he says, so that's it. Don't put a stumbling for a person's mind. Asu dover ala hatumo. Do something about the tumah shelo yeh nechsholim bo noise truma v'taris, so that the people that carry truma or taris is other clean things that need to be clean that are not tummy. They're going to stumble because they're not going to know. They don't know that there's a caver there. So therefore, this is the source. Make a marker so that the blind will not stumble over it. Rapapa Omar gives a different pasuk. Pasuk in Yeshayin and Zayin. Over there it says, "Ba'omar solu panuderach." He says, "Move aside, make space, make a way." That's basically so. Make a way so that the people that are going on the way will not have to step over tamei stuff. Or the end of the pasuk. Pick up the stumbling from the path. They're going to be walking to the Geula. They're walking to redemption. So raise the stumbling so they don't have to walk over Tumah. That's going to be why, because there's going to be markers. David Omar gives another hint from a pasuk in Shmosh Yud-Ches. Over there it says, let them know the road they should go in it. Literally, it means the path of Torah. But over here it says, let them know the way where there's no tumah over there, where there's no stumbling, there's nothing there to make them tumah. Marzutra Amar brings another pasuk in Vayikra Tezvov. There it says, "V'hizartem as bnei Yisrael mitumosim." You should separate the Yidden from their tumah, meaning v'hizartem, as Rashi says, u'betargiminon. We translate it utifarshun. You should separate them. Basically, it means, how do you separate them? You make a marker, so you separate them so they don't go on the tumah. Rabashi Omar, Rabashi says, in Vayikra Yud-Ches, the pasuk says there, "Ushmartem es mishmarti." Guard my guard. What is my guard? What is mishmarti? Mishmarti is my guard, meaning the truma is my guard, which means it has to be guarded because you can't eat it betuma. So guard the truma by making markers. That's what asu ushmartim asu mishmeres. Make a guard, the mishmarti to my guard. Mishmarti is another word for truma. Make a guard for mishmarti. Asu mishmeres mishmarti. So Rashi, asu mishmeres, make a guard le'oichlei truma. For those that eat truma diksiba mishmeres. That is written mishmeres. So truma is called mishmeres, a guard. You have to make a guard for the mishmarti, for those who eat truma. The ksiv, the pasuk says, the mishmeres. I think I'm missing some words here. But anyway, I got to fix this. I'm missing a few words in the Rashi over here. I must have erased that. So they should not be metame. So here we learn you have to guard it so you don't make it tum. Rabbeinu Omar, he learns it from a pasuk in Tehillim Nun. Over there it says with a sin, v'som derech, you should the road over there, but he learned. He says, "V'shom derech," you make a sign on the arenu v'yesh elikim. Pasuk says, "I will show you the salvation of elikim if you make a road. You define the road." So he said, "V'shom derech sha'osim simen be'eza derech elicha." You make a sign which road to take because there's no tum over there. So that's another pasuk which it seems that there is designed a road for Tumah and not Tumah. These are all the pasuk that they relate to the different psukim, which we hint that one should not make the Tumah, that one should make a marker for the Tumah. While the Gemara brings down the pasuk, the Gemara brings down another drush on this pasuk. Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, said Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Kol Hashom or Choysov, anybody who measures and evaluates his roads. In other words, he's always being very careful not to do things wrong. That is very, very focused. Shom Meloshen Shuma. So he says, he merits and he sees in the salvation of Hashem. He uses the same pasuk, because he says, Vishom derech. The pasuk says, Vishom derech. He says, Al tikra Vishom elo Vishom derech. Shom Meloshen evaluate Shuma. Arenu b'yesh elikim. Then you get to see the salvation of Hashem. Arenu b'yesh elikim ze hashom er choysov, one who evaluates his roots. What Rashi says, hamachashev hefsid mitzvah keneged schora, one who calculates the loss that he has to, because doing a mitzvah and the reward he gets for it, uschara veda, and the benefit, the enjoyment connected of said, the loss of it. So v'shom k'moy shomin, like you evaluate. So a person who's very careful, v'shom derech, watches his road, he gets to see v'yesh elikim. Okay, let's leave it over here. We have another drasha on this pasuk over here. We'll leave it over here, and of course, wish everybody a happy Hanukkah coming up. And just a short thought of Hanukkah, although that it would be okay for them to light the menorah, even if they wouldn't have clean oil. Hashem made a miracle that a clean jug of oil lasted for them for 8 days. But it would have been okay if they didn't have any oil, they could have used non-clean oil, because there's a halacha that if the whole community is not clean, then it's okay to use unclean oil. But herein lies the miracle. The Eibishter wanted to show that they are using clean oil. The whole idea, the Greek philosophy, they objected to the spirituality of Torah and mitzvahs. They didn't have so much a problem the Yidden learning Torah, but just as an intellectual exercise. They wanted to take out the Kedusha. That's why it says lahashkichon in the Halanisim. We say they wanted to make them forget Torah Secho, that it's your Torah, that there is a sanctity over there. That's what they had objections, and that's why the Eibishter Dafke made the miracle. No, it's going to be pure oil. It's going to be oil. It's going to be connected to Hashem, and we're not going to light with not pure oil. And that's the lesson for us, that at the end of the day, when we stick it out with Hashem, all the purity, we will be successful. And Mitzvah Hashem, as they had the miracles in those days, Yom Mahem, Bizman Hazeh. Mitzvah Hashem, we'll see everybody next week, same time.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rabbi.
Thank you.